Hi, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube show, Ruben's History Show. So I hope you guys had a good New Year's and happy holidays and Merry Christmas. So today's topic is going to be on what were schools like in former Soviet Union. Um, Schools in former Soviet Union started from the 10th grade, from the first grade, which was basically like kindergarten, and it would go all the way to 10th grade, which is basically like high school or secondary education. And then it's very different compared to United States. So United States schools go from the first grade all the way to the 10th grade to the 12th grade. So that means it goes from kindergarten to high school. That's how it goes in the United States because it goes from the first grade to the 12th grade. But then in Soviet Union, it went from the first grade to 11th grade, first grade to 10th grade. So after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, there were a lot of changes to Soviet schools because Soviet Union dissolved, and then the schools, I think, in Russia today, they go from Monday to Friday, I believe. So everything changed after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. So schools in USSR mostly taught mostly math. Basically, they taught math, and they taught like physics and science and the history of Communist Party of the Soviet Union and the history of Russian Revolution and this other communist history of the Soviet Union. That's what they would be teaching in the Soviet schools to the students of the schools throughout the nation. And so history was like not the very interesting topic to listen to, because history, they would talk about all everything about communist party. That's all they would talk about. They will not talk about like Western history, about like the United States or the ancient Romans or ancient Greeks or Egyptians, or they won't talk about any other Western history. So that was that was not basically interesting, because they mostly talked about this communist party and all the other stuff. So that was not very interesting in history. So like they taught science, physics, and math. So some people were interested in math, and some kids were interested in physics because they really liked learning how things work. Some people like and I think there was engineering in the school, in the engineering, I believe, I think in the schools. And so and then also they would have this parent conferences, which is basically like when your parent goes to your school, and the teachers, it would be only teachers and the parents of the students would be in the classroom, and they would talk about how is your kid doing in the class, how is he doing in this subject, and the teacher would say, okay, your son or daughter needs to improve on it, so he or she needs to work on it more. And the teacher would say also, oh, your daughter and son is doing very bad, so she needs to improve on it or needs to do better. So that's what they would tell their parents in the meeting, in the conference meeting in Soviet schools, when their kids were when the kids were home and stuff. So that was kind of that was what they had. They had parent conferences in the country. And so also they had and then also they had no cafeterias in school like in the United States. Well, they had no cafeterias in Soviet Union because kids had to bring their lunch from home, or they had to get a lunch in school or somewhere, I think, and they would have to eat it in the classroom because there was no cafeterias in the Soviet schools. And so that's how it was during that time. And so also, if kids didn't live too far away from school, they could walk there. If they lived far away from the school, they had to take public transportation to get to the school because there was no school buses. And so I believe it was one of my relatives. I think they walked to school, I believe. I believe one of my relatives started going to this walking to school. I walking to school because it was not a far distance from their house. And so they walked there, and basically they had and I think school started around, I think it was between 7 o'clock, and then it would end between 2 or 3 p.m. in the evening. So that's basically how it worked. Kind of like similar, kind of like the same thing in the United States, because like I think in my school, school ends around between 2 o'clock, 2:20, 2:25 it ends, and then it kind of ends like the same thing in the Soviet schools basically. And so similar thing, and same thing in the United States. We have this breaks. We have this winter break, summer break, and spring break. So first came each year. First came spring break, which was basically I think it was 1 week off from school in USSR or Soviet Union, and then it was summer break, which was like basically like 3 months. The kids in school were off for 3 months from May. I think it was between May to September or August, I believe. And then spring winter break would start in December. I think it was sometime in December it would start, and there would be New Year's where the families, Soviet families, would celebrate the New Year's with their families. So that's basically what they did in the U.S. in this when it was New Year's of USSR during when it was winter break in Soviet Union. So basically, that was where like the kind of breaks that we have in the United States. And then whenever a big holiday was going on, they would talk about this big holiday. For example, like the October Revolution. They would talk about the October Revolution and what happened. Why is this holiday so important? And they would teach about October Revolution, I believe. And they would also talk about May Day, the Victory Parade, the Victory Day, which was like when the Nazi Germany and when Nazi Germany was defeated by the USSR in 1945, and they would talk about the Victory Day. I think, from what I remember, learning till now. So. And then also you have to wear a uniform to go to school. You had to wear a uniform like that was the rule in school. You had to wear a uniform. They basically wanted you to be dressed up like soldiers. Basically, they wanted you to dress up like soldiers. So you had to wear a uniform to school. So that was like a rule. That was like the one rule in school. That was a rule in school. You had to wear a uniform. So. And I think schools throughout all Soviet Union, they taught this. I think they taught geometry, um, geography, geography, and other subjects, other fields of subject. So that's what they mostly taught throughout the Soviet Union during the 69 years of history of the country. And so they would, if you got all good grades throughout all the subjects in you got in all subjects in the school, you would get a medal for good grades in those subjects. You would get a medal. I think it's when you are in high school, I believe, you get to have a good medal if you graduate high school and you get all good grades throughout the subjects in school you had. And so that's basically what you would earn that, but you had to work very, very hard to get the medal, and to get good grades basically. And so and so And so schools are like school, and then you get to have the decision to go to college basically to continue your education there. So and then university, I think it was college. So college, to get into college, you had to compete against other kids in the classes if you wanted to be like the best person in the college. So you had to work very, very hard to compete against other students to get into like a good college, basically. So you had to compete against the smart people, basically. You had to compete against the smart kids in the classroom to be the best one to get into college. And so, um, and then college, I think college, they basically like taught the same thing in Soviet colleges. They basically like taught history and math and literature, Russian literature, I think, throughout all schools in USSR. And they taught history of Communist Party, same thing they did in schools, and biology and geography and biology. They taught all those subjects in school, and that's basically kind of like the same thing they had in the elementary and high school, I believe. So that's what they mostly taught about in there. And then from what I recall, from what I remember correctly, there was exams at the end of the school year, like in I think it was in May. There would be some exams like tests before the summer break begins. I think it would be on like Russian language, on history, on math or something like that. And so if you failed the test, then you would have to take it again over the summer. But if you failed in the summer, then I think you would get held back to the other grade, or you would have to. I think you would have to get lowered back to the next grade. So that was like one of the rules in the Soviet schools. And so each year, and school always begins on September 1st of each year, which is Knowledge Day. That's basically when the schools open in Soviet Union and all the Eastern communist countries during the Cold War time. But when Soviet Union came down, it was no longer called Knowledge Day, or I think it is still called Knowledge Day. I think I don't remember correctly. So yep, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So please drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.